Welcome to the Off Street podcast featuring Adam Reiner and Sean Dan. Off Street contains general information that is not suitable for everyone and contains certain forward-looking statements of future possibilities that, due to known and unknown risks and other uncertainties and factors, may differ materially from actual results. As such, there is no guarantee that any views and opinions expressed herein will come to pass. Off Street is presented for informational purposes, and nothing contained herein should be construed as a solicitation to buy or sell any security or as an offer to provide investment, tax, or legal advice. Additionally, this communication contains information derived from third-party sources. Although we believe these sources to be reliable, we make no representations as to their accuracy or completeness. Adam and Sean are employees of Marshall Financial Group, Inc., a registered investment advisor. For additional information about the firm, including its services and fees, send for the firm's disclosure brochure or visit advisorinfo.sec.gov.
All right, Sean, it is Tuesday, January 30th, 2024, 2:45 in the afternoon. I hear that Travis Kelce will be playing Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl.
Something like that, Adam. Something like that, yes. Your dream Super Bowl or your nightmare Super Bowl, depending on who you are. I think for most football fans, well, I shouldn't say that. For us, it's a nightmare, especially as Eagles fans, nightmare matchup.
It seems like the average American does not like this matchup.
It sucks. On paper, it's a great matchup. Two teams that match each other's strengths.
It'll probably be a good game. Yes.
Probably going to be a good football game. I'm heartbroken that I'm going to have to root for one of these teams.
Yes.
It's the most apathetic I've been about a Super Bowl in as long as I can remember.
I think we just follow the Philly connection, root for Andy Reid.
Yeah.
So that means we'll get even more Mahomes commercials in the year ahead.
Mahomes and Auto.
Mahomes, Kelce, Andy Reid. Every commercial that's on during a football game.
The circus only continues.
There's a bit of fatigue.
It is what it is. It is what it is. There's nothing else we're going to talk about this week. I was trying to find other things to do a cold open about. Soup got thrown on the Mona Lisa. Didn't feel like it had as much of a bite as the Super Bowl. I don't know if you saw that.
Did not see that.
Climate protesters came in through some, I think it was tomato soup maybe.
Okay.
But the Mona Lisa's behind bulletproof glass anyway, so it didn't really do anything.
It's just confusing. What does Mona Lisa or soup have to do with climate change? But
I don't know. Slow week, so we had to talk Super Bowl, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I got one for you. There was an update on that Boeing story.
Yes. Bad to worse.
Yes, they were checking the bolts. Apparently, the problem was there were no bolts.
There were no bolts. They forgot the bolts. You wonder why the door flies off. Well,
slight mix-up there.
There was nothing holding it in, apparently.
It's amazing it flew as much as it did without the door coming off.
It's
if
crazy.
there really were no bolts installed.
It's really crazy. The quote from the article is, they increasingly believe the plane maker's employees failed to put back the bolts when they reinstalled a 737 MAX 9 plug door after opening or removing it during production. So basically, they get the fuselage built from Spirit Aerosystems. They then need to take apart some things to finish putting it all together. And then when they put that door back on, they basically forgot to screw it back in. Crazy.
It seems like there's been a lot of confusion about this door. From the exterior of the plane, it looked like there was a door. But when you were inside the plane, the interior view, it was just looked like a wall.
Yeah.
There was no door.
What does a plug door do?
I think it's just like an option. Like they could have a door there if they want to. Just think of like different models of car. Like you may have a model car where there's like something there on your dash that has nothing part of it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, we talked about it. There's certain industries where it's, okay, I made a minor mistake. It's not going to change the product. An aeroplane is not. It's not the thing where you can have minor mistakes.
I'd say in any type of aerospace, you do not want a failure of process or a failure of production.
No. And also, the more these stories come out, the more I have to think about planes and air travel. And it's one of those things where you think about space too long, you can't do it. When you think about planes and flying and the amount of trust you have to put in different parties, scary thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of trust. Well, for what it's worth, stock's still down near like 20% since the incident happened. So
feels generous almost.
A little generous. Speaking of generous, Sean, how about the economy?
Not bad.
GDP data came out last week. Economy continues to outperform expectations.
The little engine that could.
Yes, it feels like we are in an underdog economy right now.
Everyone's doubted it pretty much since what? Early 2022, since really the market turned down, inflation started ticking up.
Everyone's been waiting for this recession that hasn't happened.
Yeah, preying on its downfall, and it just continues to chug higher.
So GDP last quarter was released last week, came out at 3.3%, which was higher than the 2% expected. Inflation, also favorable, showed us back below 3%, 2.6% year over year. Today, there was consumer confidence data, which has struggled, and it's back to a 29-month high. People feel better about the present situation. People's expectations for the economy have improved. So the economy is doing well.
I would say we're in a no landing scenario.
That is the way it feels right now.
Timestamp it. I'm calling it.
We're calling it right now.
Official as of January 30th. Probably official as of October 30th. We've pulled off the no landing.
I would say for compliance, Sean believes
Okay.
we will have a no landing.
I'll bleep all that out.
You can leave it. Leave it in.
Okay. I believe we reached a no landing.
But through the first 15 months, we are currently living through one of the best economic expansions in U.S. history.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
The last time the economy grew this much, this quickly, was in the early 1980s. The expansion that started in 82. Right now, the economy's growing about 19% through the first 15 months. In the 80s, it was 20, though unemployment's much lower, averaging right now than it was in the 80s. And I'd say inflation's pretty comparable between the two periods. And most people that lived through it probably look back on that 80s period as a great expansionary period and maybe don't feel the same way about the current expansion that we're in right now.
It really makes you wonder, like, what is so different this time? Is that the pain of COVID and then inflation so much that people just want to doubt this economy? We got punched in the mouth kind of 2 times in 3 years that people just felt like it wasn't real. Because, I mean, the data, you could list a million different data points, and the economy's great. And it has been great. And it looks like it will continue to be great, hopefully, moving forward. And people just still won't have it.
Yeah, it's just an economy that's been unloved. And I'm not sure why. I know inflation was high. It was high in the 80s as well. But I don't know. Feels like we need to start to change the narrative about the current economy that we're in.
Yeah, and if we think about, too, the Fed, there's a Fed meeting tomorrow. Eyes now for the Fed shift towards, okay, when do we start cutting? How fast do we cut? I think we need to relax about the Fed, too. It's like, I think we got a little too cute with the Fed on the way up with hiking. We stress so much about, are we going up 25 basis points, 50 basis points? We talked about it every day ad nauseum. And we really can't even point now to we did over 5% of hiking. We don't know how much that even made an impact. And I think on the way down, it's going to be the same thing. So I think let's just start a glide path down, whether it be in March or May, and just see what happens. And let's stop talking about it every single day and watching yields every single day. And
that's what people love to do, Sean.
Some people, not me.
That's why we have a podcast to talk about the Fed. We would have the economics podcast if it was my call. I know you cringe every time it comes up.
I'm sick of the like babying it and getting so obsessed because we look back over the last 18 months. We spent so much breath and energy on it, not just us, but everyone. It feels like. And did it make a difference? I don't know. I don't know.
Who can say? Maybe this is a sign of the economy, Sean. This is a story that you had found. And it is the $400,000 job that doesn't require a college degree. And drum roll, it is a Walmart store manager.
Yes.
Borderline shocking.
The manager of a Walmart superstore can now earn up to $404,000 a year. That comes from an average base salary of $128,000, bonus dollars of up to 200% of your salary, and up to $20,000 in annual stock grants. So there's a lot of up tos in there.
Yes, there's a lot of comp that has to be earned outside of the salary.
Your base there is $128,000, which is still great base salary in the United States. But this is pretty shocking. I think at first we were shocked of, you can work in a Walmart brick and mortar storefront and make that much money. And then the more we thought about it, we're like,
very challenging, no doubt. The Walmart's own website says a person in this role works with hundreds of associates, thousands of shoppers, and up to 150,000 products.
It's beyond being a like a mid-level manager at
Yes.
a corporate company where you got your little team. Like you said, there's a lot of lives and a lot of dollars and a lot of products that you're in charge of, and it just seems like it would be a nightmare in practice.
Seems like through the article, turnover may have been an issue in this role, and they want these managers to think more like owners. So that's the reason for the incentive comp.
Which makes sense. You know, it's why a lot of corporate roles, especially executive level roles, are so stock grant heavy, bonus heavy, because they want you to, you know, it's about the execution. But like you said, dealing with tons of employees, high turnover just from the people who work on the floor, high no-show rate, angry customers, lots of departments, inventory. Like you probably write a book of the stuff you see day to day as a Walmart superstore manager.
You just think of the stuff you see day to day on social media.
Yeah, or
right?
if you ever go into a Walmart,
Yeah.
you can't leave a Walmart without seeing something crazy happen. But hey, if you want a job where you can have a top 5% salary in the U.S., make almost half the salary of NFL quarterback who's starting in the Super Bowl. Brock Purdy makes just under $900,000. Here you can make almost, more than 40% of his salary. Hard job, but if you're a people person.
I was surprised that they're trying to build the candidate pipeline for this role by doing college recruiting. Could you imagine you go to a college career fair and it's like McKinsey, private equity firm, Walmart, come be a store manager.
Hey,
private equity firm.
It is funny you say that because Walmart did actually recruit at our business school, and it was more for like corporate finance roles, accounting roles, and the biggest hurdle that they saw is everyone starts out in Arkansas.
Oh.
And they had to convince people, hey, Arkansas is great. Come work in Arkansas, make the same starting salary that you would make for a company in New York, but you're paying Arkansas taxes and living with Arkansas living expenses. So,
Yeah. How'd that pitch work for him?
Not very successful among my friends, but maybe they got some people.
So I came across some data from Capital One Shopping, who said right now in the United States there is an estimated 1,150 malls, but some sources project that by 2032 there may be as few as 150 malls still in operation, which was interesting because there was an article that recently came out that it said shoppers prefer to shop outdoors.
Yes, so shoppers are shunning enclosed malls for more open air and strip mall locations, and a lot of national chains are apparently listening. This article talks about Bath and Body Works, Foot Locker, among others, that are closing a lot of their stores in enclosed malls and opting to open more locations in open air / strip malls.
I like this.
They found that there's higher margins, higher foot traffic. It's more convenient for customers. It seems like that is kind of the linchpin that they've uncovered here is if someone wants to go to one of these stores, it's a lot easier for them to go to a strip mall. They can park right in front of the store, get in and get out, rather than going to a big mall, having to park strategically, walk through the mall and get to you.
For us locally, this is equivalent to like Valley Square.
Yeah, we have
just like an outdoor mall.
A bunch around us, and the more I think about it, that's where I do my grocery shopping in places like that. I do a lot of, gift shopping in places like that.
But it's nice. It's nice to be able to park and walk like 150 feet to the store that you want instead of having to park, walk through whatever department store is anchoring whatever chain of a mall to try to get to what you want to go to.
It's so much less hassle. So many malls are so depressing these days.
Oh, yeah.
So depressing. And it's a benefit to the stores, too, because you now have this footprint that can a lot of times be seen from the major roads. So if you're a Foot Locker tucked in a mall, they may not know you're there. But if you're a Foot Locker in a strip mall along a highway, it's like, oh, there's Foot Locker there. I want to go in. Stores also have to pay less for the upkeep of halls, walkways, bathrooms, etc., that they often have to share the expense of in malls. So really, it's like a win-win-win.
Yeah, that Capital One study had said in 2022, 2 million square feet of mall space was demolished, which is kind of striking. Yeah. But I thought it was interesting in that article, Abercrombie and Fitch said they use online shopping data to figure out where their customers are, and they use that to just plop down a brick and mortar store right there.
Smart. It's really smart.
And then they use that really as like a distribution facility.
Yeah. I have a friend he's a store location planner.
Okay.
Is his title for a major retail company. And that's a lot of the work he does is, we want to open a store. Where should we do it? And it's all about the demographics, the demand in the area. Does this strip mall or mall make sense? A lot of science that goes into it that you might not think from kind of the consumer perspective.
Last week, there was retail sales data that came out. It, again, was stronger than expected. I guess just another economic data point that continues to come in, showing the consumer strong. But not all brands are benefiting the same.
Yes, we saw an article this week, kind of a cautionary tale. A brand that I don't think either of us had heard of before. But maybe
never heard of this brand.
Some people more in the women's fashion space may have heard of. Basically, there's this brand called Something Navy. That it started from a woman who was a fashion blogger / influencer, decided to make her own clothing brand, and she did all the marketing in the world that you could do, and it just wasn't enough because the execution wasn't there.
Right. Got a big break early on with Nordstrom, kind of parlayed that into launching her own label.
Yeah, but by the time she started breaking off from the Nordstrom label, a lot of people just said that the product wasn't good. It was a lot more expensive than the fast fashion kind of Zara or Mango's. And just as quickly as it came on, it fell off.
It was real. It felt like reading through it was a story as old as its time. Like, I don't know, you see the headline of the article and you expect it to be something else, more bite to it, and there really wasn't anything there. It was core competency was something, tried to grow it into something else, tried to use celebrities to influence the brand, quality wasn't there, sales died. It was a classic startup story.
It feels like a Fire Fest. It feels like an FTX. Like you said, you can get celebrity endorsements as much as you want. You can throw millions of dollars at it. If the actual product isn't there, it's just not going to work. You think of, too, in the clothing space, people are so passionate about what they wear these days. You think of Lululemon, Patagonia. People make statements by the brands that they wear. If you're going to charge too much for something that even they talked about she wouldn't wear.
Yeah.
She was all into fashion. She wouldn't wear her own stuff. She was wearing other brands.
It's usually a bad sign.
That's a tough look.
I think this is actually a good sign that maybe before, when interest rates were really low, this company could stay alive. Startups that weren't successful would stay alive. They just become zombie companies. But now sales aren't there. It's not profitable to keep certain businesses open. Not just this business specifically, but just in general. When businesses fail, when they're not meeting standards, I think that's a good thing. That can be a healthy thing for the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
To keep with this economics theme today, more than 17% of U.S. GDP is spent on health. Wow. Compare that to other developing economies, which average about 9.6% of GDP.
lot of ways we could go with that. I'm not going to touch it.
But there was an article that was written, "When Cancer is Not Cancer."
Yes, this was a crazy article. Apparently, there's a growing movement within some doctors to kind of declassify lower grade, less aggressive cancers as something other than cancer. The one term they use in here is perhaps a pre-malignant lesion. Basically to take the bite out of that word cancer. Because what they find is, the example that they use in this article is prostate cancer. Prostate cancer can go on a spectrum of a grade 1, low risk, low aggressive, up to grade 5. That's the most aggressive form. And what they found is a lot of these grade 1 cancers, it's usually best to take a wait and see approach. It's not worth the complications or risk of surgery or chemo, things of that nature. But that word cancer is so poignant and elicits such a response in doctors and patients that someone hears they have cancer, they're like, let's attack it, let's get rid of it, yes. Even though that may not be best.
I'm smiling, not because of the cancer, but because I know that's how we would both probably act.
Absolutely.
We would freak out.
Without a doubt. I mean, I read this article and I came down on the camp of, let's call something what it is.
Yes.
That being said, I know I would react the exact same way.
I don't think we need to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. But I like the point of the article that at times education can be a better option than aggressive treatment, which can have lasting, debilitating side effects if you don't necessarily need that. And they said there's oftentimes a lot of pressure from family members that say, let's take care of this aggressively now so it doesn't come back because I want you to live, which is a sentiment I completely get.
Absolutely.
But may not always be the best option.
Yeah. And some doctors point out this is actually a positive thing in the sense that As surveillance and screenings have improved over the past few decades, we're catching cancers earlier and earlier. So things that would have never been caught are being caught. Doesn't mean we should immediately attack it.
One of the most shocking things in the article was the number of people with low-grade cancers that just stop showing up for surveillance.
So yeah, that was the argument for people that want to keep calling it cancer rather than say pre-malignant lesion. They basically said we tell people they have cancer, low-grade cancer, and a lot of them don't even show up for follow-ups, which is crazy.
It is nuts. And they also said there could be insurance implications if it's not called cancer. Like insurance may just not pay for certain treatments. But that's a whole other bag to unpack another day, Sean. But anyway, thought that was interesting. This is a uncorrelated / correlated story. So Singapore has a very robust economy. I think some people may be surprised to learn about that. They have a higher GDP per capita than the United States. They generally have low unemployment. Their unemployment's lower there than the United States. Inflation's relatively in check compared to other developing economies right now. So pretty strong economy. But if you want to drive a car in Singapore, you have to pay up to do it.
You better be ready to spend a pretty penny.
Yes. A shocking dollar figure here.
This was a story from Bloomberg, and it details a woman in Singapore who went to buy a Toyota hybrid sedan. And the price tag on that sedan was almost $200,000. And that is because in Singapore, the permit for the right to own a vehicle is $112,000 just to have the right to own it.
It's called a certificate of entitlement.
Crazy.
But it gives you the right to use a car for, 10 years? And these certificates of entitlement to drive the car, own a car, they auction them out every 2 weeks. It's a supply-demand story.
The government in Singapore has taken a zero growth approach to the registering of new cars since 2018. So Singapore actually has very great public transit, and they want to limit the amount of traffic on roads. So basically, the only way someone can get a permit is if someone else relinquishes one, which is why we have that supply-demand issue. But the number of households owning cars has fallen in recent years from about 40% of homes in 2013 to now about 1 out of every 3 homes. And car ownership has become almost a status symbol in Singapore. It's only for the elite, the very wealthy.
Yes, the ultra rich driving the Toyota hybrid.
It's crazy. It's crazy. A U.S. supercar, what you'd spend for it here, you're paying as much for a Toyota Corolla, I think is the example that they used in the article.
I don't know. It's a concept that makes sense. You want to limit something. I guess it's a space issue. They want you to use public transit. There's a permit system. Supply and demand takes over. The pricing of that does feel like a bit of a slippery slope. You enact this with cars, then what do you do it with next?
Yeah, it's definitely a good example of the major financial impacts that public policy can have, and then also kind of the wealth inequality that exists in Singapore. It's a median salary for someone in Singapore. They would need to spend 3 full years of earnings to be able to buy a Toyota sedan. 3 full years.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Crazy stat.
It's certainly an interesting story, I thought. One, highlighting just the strength of Singapore's economy, the cost of car ownership, much like you think of cost of home ownership in the United States. Different status symbol, I guess, in Singapore. So here's a more uncorrelated story for you. The Spurs mascot dresses as Batman, saves the day by catching an errant bat during game versus Timberwolves. One, I'm shocked they already had a Batman costume ready to go for this mascot. And 2, they had a bat catching net. Is this a problem at these Spurs games?
That's what I said. For the San Antonio Spurs, if your bat situation is at the point where your mascot has a Batman costume, you have a serious problem.
Yes.
You need to address it better than that. This happened 1 minute into this past Saturday's game. There's video of it. There's pictures of it. Pretty much goes exactly as Adam said. Literally, the mascot came flying onto the court, started waving a net around and somehow caught the damn thing.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
maybe
quickly.
The most impressive part.
The fans are shockingly calm.
Yes. Well, apparently bat delays are common in this arena, dating back to there was a famous incident back on Halloween, ironically enough, in 2009. Maybe the Spurs' best player ever, Manu Ginobili, using his own hand, swatted a bat out of the air, ended up having to get rabies shots because of it. But this is just one in a series of bat-related delays at this arena, and at least 3 home games in 2019 were delayed due to bats.
You know, I don't even like sitting on our deck or patio during the summer when a bat starts to dip down too low out of the sky, let alone sitting in an arena. Like, these fans, just very calm, just watching this bat fly around, mascot trying to catch it, becomes a thing.
Well, there is an explanation for the number of bats seen here. Apparently,
all right, let's hear it.
About 25 miles away, there is a cave that is home to 15 million bats.
Okay.
15 million bats.
That's a lot of bats.
In a single cave about 25 miles away. But bats are a big problem. In terms of being a nuisance. They often end up in homes, and most bats can fit through holes the size of a dime.
Oh, wow. I hate that.
That's tiny. And I, unfortunately, know a lot about bats because where I lived for 4 years in college, we had a severe bat problem. In fact, when I moved in to my freshman dorm, I lifted up my mattress to make it for the first time. A live bat flew out.
Oh, my God.
A live bat flew out, Adam. We had a bat counter in our dorm. The number of bats we'd see was almost kind of an every other day occurrence, I'd say, in the fall and in the spring. And so my brain's poisoned. I know far too much about rabies. I know far too much about bat prevention. I'm terrified of them.
Why were there so many bats? Was there also a home to 15 million
I don't know
bats?
about a cave. I don't think there's many caves in Indiana. I don't know exactly what. I just know there's a lot of bats in Indiana, and we lived in an old building that apparently many generations of bats had called home.
Yeah.
We had trouble getting rid of them.
Well, during the early days of COVID, there was a bat in the office. When we're all working remotely, yeah. Someone came in that was on the floor in the back of the building. We'd have a bat guy come in.
Oh, yeah.
Who informed us that it was mating season. If they were nesting up in the attic, they were protected. They had to stay there. Luckily, it was just an isolated bat.
And Adam, all the rabies talk here, there's one state in the U.S. that is completely rabies-free.
Completely rabies-free?
Guess which state that is.
Well, it's certainly not Florida.
It's not Florida.
I'm going to go with a western state. Arizona or New Mexico. Call it that.
Further west.
Further west, California?
Keep going.
Hawaii?
Yeah. Hawaii is the only state that is rabies-free.
Interesting.
So there you go.
The more you know.
Longest segment of the day.
So we get POW tomorrow.
Yes.
Press conference. I'll be tuned in taking notes. You'll endure the press conference when I'm listening to it.
I do tune in. I do like it. I just think sometimes we sensationalize it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Everyone has their Super Bowl. You can watch the Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift Super Bowl, or you can watch the J Powell press conferences. Give me the POW conference.
Inside you, there are two men. Choose your fighter.
Maybe they'll give a glimpse to when policy might start to get rolled back, or what metrics they're going to consider. I know there's been a lot of talk about the balance sheet. So they stop the roll for the balance sheet before they do a rate cut. They can't have inconsistent policy. So we'll see if they give any indications of that tomorrow. Otherwise, hopefully it's a boring press conference.
Feels like we're well past that point, thankfully, and keep speaking into existence. Tomorrow, the last trading day of the month. So far, it's been a great January. Hopefully tomorrow we get a okay day and we're on to February.
Yeah, all right. Sounds good. And until next week.
See you then.